when you go into a house and it's fully empty before it's furnished at all, it feels enormous. And so these thoughts and neuroses and bits and our past and worries for the future that end up crowding into the consciousness in the morning give it a constrained sense, and the inner shit that goes on can often be like, I don't like this thing, so I'm going to get rid of this couch and I'm going to put in a new couch. And really what's made me more comfortable is just getting rid of the couch, or seeing the couch, letting go of the couch, and allowing a little bit more of a spacious environment without the requirement to jam things back in. And that means that I have less answers. In fact, one of our students off the last retreat shared that I'd rather be, the thing that came to him, which I found to be a really nice poetic line, was, I'd rather be a smiling idiot than a miserable intellect. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva, Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Well, we're still in recovery mode. We've just got off a really fantastic retreat on Sunday, and it was really nice to be back with a full soul retreat after a good almost 6 weeks break since the previous one. So it recaptured our spark and brought a great deal to both of us and also to the people who were here. Upcoming, we have a soul retreat on the 28th of December, still looking for a Guru Karya position for those catching up in review, and also the 11th of January we have a Guru Karya position available. So do reach out, members, if you would like to come along. We would always love your help. Tonight, and whenever you're watching this in review, the theme that Rajni, I think it actually came to me last week, and then Rajni jumped in because she had something she wanted to explore with this little universe around you kind of idea. Insight, the nature of insight and signs is what was brewing in my consciousness. So I'm going to attempt to recapture the it's hot. That's great. So I'm going to attempt to recapture the essence of the essence of that feeling, which there comes a stage on the journey when synchronicities start appearing, shall we say, where maybe in the lead up prior there's a heavy introspective, or maybe not even introspective, a very outward mental reality that one occupies, and this can be characterized by well, it was for me not feeling in the right place or the right time. And so as one first starts awakening and the blinkers come off and the eyes are opening, there can be a temptation to look for external supports for one's own stability, understanding, peace. And So what this led me to do is I would see like an auspicious number on a number plate, and then that would somehow comfort me. Or I would see a hidden meaning in a sign on a street sign or something like that, and it would bring me a sense of reassurance that everything was okay. And obviously this leads to the circumstance of it's quite addictive to see little divine hints, little divine winks or nods to enhance that feeling of being on the right path. And though this might feel like useful for a phase, in retrospect, I see that this can also, I won't analyze it, I'll talk about what it led me towards. It led me towards then maybe using cards. My brother gave me a deck of oracle cards for a Christmas or something, or a birthday at some stage, and they were great cards. They were kind of, bit cheesy and very new agey, but there were some really nice messages in there. And I found myself pulling cards. And the cards that I would pull had quite a lot to say. And it was really quite, wow, you mean like if I put faith in random chance or God's divine intervention, that when a card comes out of the deck and I look at it, it's going to tell me something about myself. Wow, these cards are pretty special. And so it created like a sensation where, or it created a situation where I would wake up and I would see what the cards had to say about my day, or I would notice that I was feeling uneasy with some aspect of myself, and I would reach for an external crutch to support. And over time, I was bolstered by the message that Swamiji shares, which is that he's like, I don't wear any rings, I don't wear any necklaces, I don't wear any talismans. Everything I get is coming from the soul. And so I imagine myself wondering how a being with an expanded consciousness like Swamiji would be occupying the world. Would they be seeing signs in number plates? Would they be seeing, synchronicities occur and then suddenly having these extreme moments of, oh yes, that's right, everything is all divinely perfect? Well, what I've understood in years that have gone by now is that Swamiji lives in these kinds of planes, and the suggestion, the fact that he lives in this plane where that is a steady state, where one feels the signs are always with them, that one other human being at least, if not hundreds or thousands of other human beings, can live in that state, that's an indication and a sign to you and I that, wait a second, the sign is always with you. And the signless, the signified, that which is beyond the sign, is always there, present, waiting. It's only our glancing into it that heralds its arrival. So as these external tricks or aids or supports, like astrology is another one that many people lean to, palmistry, all of these modes of receiving divine insight, as the reliance upon those gradually softens and reduces, a new phase can be born, one that is trusting of what is innate to the being without the requirement for the external crutch. And this is where I would suggest that the soul is becoming one's guru, where the answers emerge from within. So the question then doesn't hover around, how do I get the latest, best cards? Which are the best cards? Do I get the Gaia Oracle cards, or do I get the Goddess cards, or do I get the Zen Osho cards? Got all three of them. I don't have Goddess cards, but they've appeared on the journey somewhere, and it's like, which cards do I pull? And I went and bought an original deck of tarot cards because somehow they were going to be more legit, right? But when the requirement for those begins to diminish and trust in the soul rises, the inner feeling is that, okay, those cards are then nice to play with maybe once in a while or a fun thing, but the relationship changes to them. And yeah, I don't know, Rajni, what's your experience been with this, these external signs and your relationship to them?
I think it would be as a child, the sign was inside my body. It was more a feeling. It wasn't an external thing for me. It wasn't, oh, I saw this. With nature, yes, because I would see a specific bird that followed me for years and years and years and years and years, until in 2018, where we met, a lady said, oh, for me, I see that bird and I associate that bird with Ramji. And that's where it hit me. I'm like, oh my God, that's so weird. Because it was the same bird with orange, it's got orange here. And I always said to my mom, this is my bird, this is a bird. Each time I will go outside, I will see it. So I saw sign in nature, but other than that, it was more an insight. And the insight would be felt in my body itself. Because as a kid, I would feel something in my stomach, something that wasn't right, or feel good. But it was all about the feeling in my body.
Mm.
So sign, and I got gifted cards as well, the same as you. I went to a phase where I loved to have like crystal around, and it was all about the crystal that would help me the most, i.e. a moonstone, or a pearl here, or but in terms of external sign, I think in nature, crows, birds, butterflies sometimes would be what would hit me most, and on top of that, the feelings that I had inside me.
And look, don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that we should all go and throw all of this stuff away. The relationship to these things can be fit for a certain time, but I guess what we see is a lot of people who are heavily dependent upon external crutches to attain a stability of mind, to enable them to sit comfortably. And in the final sort of movement towards something resembling freedom in one's life, the grip needs to be loosened. And as I've learned to loosen those grips, what then the next stage that kind of emerged was like, oh, okay, there's actually kind of a yearning, or I had to confront the part of me that wanted the certainty of the sign. And that too is something that needs to be surrendered or let go of. The requirement for demonstrable, fixed stability in favor of, and what I believe that this practice of meditation cultivates eventually is the ability to sit in the chaos without a requirement to cease it, stop it, change it, to allow the energy to be what it needs to be in that moment, and to conduct oneself accordingly. And so that pristine clarity and responsiveness to the present moment and to what is manifest before one is, it takes courage to look at that. Like what I see when I put my attention back there is I woke up and I was uncertain about the day, and therefore because of that uncertainty I wanted a good positive sign that everything was going to be okay. And rather than learning to feel that internal to my own being. And so in the process of persistently letting go, i.e. this meditation of surrender without technique, as that practice begins to take hold, the inner feeling of being able to sit and endure the uncomfortable mental and physical sensations is enhanced. And suddenly I'm not so dragged down by my uncomfortable morning. There's a moment of stillness, and it might be that there's some anxiety and that I see the anxiety and then I let go of the anxiety, and then out of a place of letting go of the anxiety enough, or the fear of the uncertainty of the day, once that's been let go of enough, trust reasserts itself, but not through positive affirmation per se. Not like I sit down and I go, yes, everything, I can trust everything's going to be fine. There's really a trust in the emptiness, and a trust in the fact that that spaciousness doesn't need to be filled. It's like the apartment with too much furniture in it it makes it feel smaller once it's got more stuff in it. And you know, when you go into a house and it's fully empty before it's furnished at all, it feels enormous. And so these thoughts and neuroses and bits and our past and worries for the future that end up crowding into the consciousness in the morning give it a constrained sense, and the inner shit that goes on can often be like, I don't like this thing, so I'm going to get rid of this couch and I'm going to put in a new couch. And really what's made me more comfortable is just getting rid of the couch, or seeing the couch, letting go of the couch, and allowing a little bit more of a spacious environment without the requirement to jam things back in. And that means that I have less answers. In fact, one of our students off the last retreat shared that I'd rather be the thing that came to him, which I found to be a really nice poetic line, was I'd rather be a smiling idiot than a miserable intellect. And so I'd rather be happy in that emptiness than uncomfortable but with a sense of certainty. And learning to sit through that as an interior physiological, psychological and spiritual experience, that union occurs in the meditation. That's the muscle that you're building by doing this persistently. It's like, am I doing it right? 5 years later, am I doing it right? Who knows? Maybe 5 years ago there was the question, am I doing this right? And now there's this inner feeling of knowing that there is no way that I nor anyone else can tell me whether or not it's being done right. It just is. And so I don't have any more answers after all of this persistent time with the practice, but I do have a sense of not caring so much. Yeah, jump in.
That it's when you leave everything and you're able to leave all this little crutch that you used in the past, that actual sign come to you. And it's so on your face that you cannot deny the presence of something higher guiding you or telling you, or it's like an affirmation saying you're on the right path, you're doing the right thing. For you, it was the experience at, finding that church, right?
Yeah, well, and this is like what maybe piqued my interest around this topic was, and I shared it last week, but we haven't put out our YouTube because we've been on retreat, so we will do that this week. But what happened when I was driving through Ballarat is that out of the corner of my eye, I saw a church spire and something drew me to it. And I felt an inner call to go and investigate. And I quickly pushed that away because I was in a rush. And I got to the end of the street and literally there was a street sign with St. Therese Church back that way. Now, as a devotee of St. Therese, or a being in whom her love exists, I was like, wow, it's a St. Therese Church in Ballarat, and I came across it. I got to turn around and go and have a look. And it was just a tiny little chapel. And I think, like, there's hundreds of churches in Ballarat. Like, why did that one call to me? Well, there was an energy there, and there was a familiar energy, and it was like seeing the face of a friend in a busy sea of people. You pick out your friend and you make 100 other people irrelevant in that moment. Your attention is with the one friend. So, but that sign manifested when I was least looking for it. I wasn't going looking. And I'd say even a step further, and maybe my day was brightened by stopping and seeing a Saint Therese, and I felt her closer to me. But I wonder, like, how much more room for growth is there to feel, say, a saint's presence within one's heart all day? And there are beings in whom that sort of level of love truly does exist. And so the comfort then begins to be a sort of self-soothing that emerges from within. And this is where I'd see that the yogic practice and the yogic activity is like, if I got imprisoned today, I mean, it would be horrible in many regards, but I also have all of this knowledge of practice that lives inside of me, and I know that it has a positive effect on me. And so, a yogi might go to a cave for a year and like think that it's the best thing ever, and even the most hardened criminal, when they get put into solitary confinement for a year, thinks that it's the worst thing ever. So there's a strange disjunction between, I guess, what one can cultivate through these practices is a sense of peace with one's own inner nature, and that is only ever going to be arrived at by fully witnessing just how much we push away from some things. And it's like, oh wow, like I'm guarding against something that's really not glamorous inside of me. And so it's like, okay, well, that's the moment to look deeply into it, and not to look at the thing, because the thing is there, but looking at my response to the thing, looking how I'm trying to like attribute blame or disown it or let go of it. And this is Sundarnath's, my Hatha Yoga Guru's perspective, that like, look, be real. You put it there. Some part of you did. It might be a very unconscious part of you that put the thing inside of you, but don't avert your eyes when it calls for that attention. Give it the acknowledgement and then allow it to be. And so, if someone, for instance, someone watching this was accustomed to using the cards as a crutch, or using astrology as a crutch to make oneself feel good for the day, in those moments leading up to pulling the card, pause and introspect and put one's attention on the inner feeling and watch the mind. Those are the moments to bring alive the meditational sort of focus and the self-observation, to see, this is the moment that I proceed to feel so uncomfortable about myself, and jackpot, I feel good about myself now. And same with my vices. I started doing this with bad habits and things that I knew weren't good for me, at the request or at the observation of Rajni, which was don't stop it, just bring God with you. And so you're entering into a very self-destructive vice, going like, okay, well, Rajni said bring God, so I'm going to bring God into this horrible thing that I'm about to do. And I went through the first motions and I'm like, oh, this doesn't really work with God fully present with me, or higher consciousness or the soul with me. And so instead of going, oh, no, save me, God, don't let me drink, don't let me drink, don't let me drink. It's like, salute, cheers to God, and allow him to be present with that drink and see how that changes the nature of the drink. For me, it made the drink hold less power because I'd given my responsibility to something beyond. And so often, people think, oh, no, I don't want to confuse the sacred with the profane. I don't want to pull God into my dark little corner of self-loathing and hatred and self-judgment. It's like, no. The light is always welcome. Its only nature is to displace the darkness. It's pure positivity. You can bring it into hell and it will make it better. Like, it'll kind of chill things out in hell. It'll take someone who's having a 3 out of 10 day and make them have a 4 out of 10 day. It doesn't push people the other way. It only ever seeks to lift one up. And that's the inner radiance of the soul. So I think, like, when we're drawn to the external crutch, there's a limit to what they can give us. The external manifestation of a synchronicity, there's a limit to how much that can fill the cup up. But there's no limit to what your own soul can bring to you and others in any one present moment. And so unless the highest ideal of love is embodied, then the work is in taking oneself up to the supreme virtue and value, which is to sit there with that pure positive wish for oneself and other. And so much of my own pain would have been diminished were I able to let go of enough things to rise into genuine love, even if it was in a situation which was a tense, heated discussion or an exchange, or where my ego or some part of me had been wounded, or my pride was in all over the place. Like, how to eclipse that negativity with the purity of love, and there's a lifetime of work in actually embodying that. There has to be a very razor sharp sense of self-awareness to catch oneself in the response, to catch oneself in something lower than love. And the instinct can be that when you do start seeing yourself lower than love, that you let go of the aspiration to rise, and then the energy wins, and you just dance around in the pond or in the mud, and you never actually ascend to something beyond your suffering. And so knowing the answer is quite an easy thing to attain. Like, any child wears a t-shirt at some stage with love emblazoned on it, or all there is love. It's like, it's an easy one to remember. It's kind of catchy, but it's actually bloody hard work to let go of enough to rise into that. And there can be no external support. There's no crutch that gets you to love. There's no, like, I just need to think positive things and then I'm going to love this person. It's a feeling that arises spontaneously when all of one's agenda is let go of. And so that's where this little gymnasium session of 30 minutes of letting go, hopefully, begins to feel actually as a practice of love to the transcendental, or to the soul inside of oneself. It's a way of embodying it by coming to sit, and then that's as far as you get. And having the entire system be a little bit confused and on edge, it brings alive that, well, I didn't arrive at the finish line through hard work. I arrived there through grace, through love. And yeah, so jump in, Rajni, please. Love?
Yeah, I was going to say, you just reminded me of something. I used to love astrology, astrochart, astrology, blah, blah, blah. And I have this book that would come from this specific person every year. And I would read and see, oh, wow, he had said that. Oh, wow, yeah, he had said that. Until 2018, where he said, hard side, nothing there. It's all flat. And that's the year I met you. So when I met you in Shirdi, and my sister, and that's a book from France that I used to get from my sister, when she said, do you want the 2019? And I said, no, please not. So it's not against the guy. It just made me realize the power this had on me. All the stones, all the stuff, all the cards, it had power on me. And to this, I remember a question being asked to Swamiji where they're talking about astrochart, and he said, look, when you have that practice, you've got the grace in your life. The grace is higher than any astrochart and anything that you can, use as a crutch. It's time to let go now. And that resonates here.
Well, we give our power away to those things. So if you want to have your power diluted into the crutch, sure. Like even when you think about like a proper crutch, when you're using it, you have to bear down and give energy into it for it to support you. And if you trust the crutch, it can work for you. But the goal is to not like to hobble around on crutches unless you absolutely have to. The goal is to find comfort with one's own innate nature, body, mind, soul, and allow that to be. And so let us sit in that spirit of letting go, even just temporarily. And a great starting point for people who might like pulling cards and who might like the astro and be right into all of this stuff. Do it, but then give yourself 30-minute break from it every day where it's just pure surrender. And then the attachment and the fixation, or maybe the requirement, will diminish, and the opening to that inner quality of soul will be present more and more throughout the day, so that you catch yourself without needing those supports. And so we pray that you can be free from whatever you need to be free from. Tonight I'm free from talking now, so I'm going to sit for meditation. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Leanne. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you to everyone who's watching on the replay now or into the foreseeable future. So there'll be 3 dings at the end to signify the quiet departure. We hope you have a lovely meditation.
Enjoy.